Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and unpack the central contradiction of 2026. Why does having a larger paycheck actually mean you somehow have less financial security? Picture this: you check your account on payday Friday and you feel good. But by the time rent clears, the car is gassed up, groceries are bought, and just one unexpected bill arrives in the mail, that money you mentally labeled as savings has totally vanished. You didn't make a reckless purchase, nothing extravagant happened, life simply consumed almost everything. So today, we're going to look way past the basic inflation headlines to see exactly why that happens. To figure out where all that money goes, we're going to trace the exact journey of a modern paycheck. We'll walk through the illusion of progress, the second housing payment, the price of working, postponing the essentials, and finally, the loss of breathing room. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the illusion of progress, the raise versus reality. On paper, things actually sound fantastic, right? Wages are up, and it looks like workers are getting ahead. In June 2026, average hourly earnings hit $37.64. That's a really solid 3.5% jump from the year prior. You'd think that extra income would finally give people some breathing room to rebuild an emergency fund. But to understand why that raise doesn't actually feel like a raise, we have to look at what economists call real earnings. All this means is adjusting your wage increase for the rising cost of consumer prices and inflation. Because a household that has already absorbed years of higher costs has to keep paying from that newly elevated baseline. And this is exactly where the illusion breaks. Yes, nominal pay is up 3.5%, but real purchasing power, that only grew by a microscopic 0.1%. I mean, literally a fraction of a percent. Earning more dollars isn't buying more security, which totally explains why 91% of adults remain incredibly anxious about prices. They aren't imagining the squeeze, they are living it every single day. Moving on to Section 2, the second housing payment beyond the mortgage. Let's look at the absolute largest chunk of that paycheck. The housing drop is pretty obvious right now. Even with better inventory out there, like 4.5 months of existing supply and nearly 500,000 new homes, the math is brutal. Combining a $429,000 median price tag with a 6.55% interest rate creates a massive barrier to entry. Even a household that qualifies on paper is going to find that homeownership consumes way too much of their income to actually feel secure. But listen, the mortgage is literally just the beginning. Enter what we call the second payment. The housing bill continues through a hidden ecosystem of cost. Electricity is up 4%, piped natural gas is up 3%, property taxes are climbing, and insurance costs are wildly volatile. None of these look catastrophic on their own, but when you stack them up, they turn an affordable month into an incredibly fragile one. Let's actually zero in on that insurance piece for a second, because it is both a necessary expense and your only protection against a total loss. Because homeowners insurance premiums have historically outpaced inflation by 8.7%. 6% of owners are now completely uninsured. Mostly they just cite the sheer cost as the reason. Another 20% can't afford enough protection, and 14% are struggling to just pay the premiums they currently have. Lowering your coverage might drop today's bill, but it leaves families brutally exposed to tomorrow's disasters. Which brings us to Section 3, the price of working, the commute tax. Once the roof over your head is paid for, millions of people have to surrender another huge slice of their paycheck just for the privilege of driving to their jobs. And here's the ultimate irony. Even if you save a few bucks because motor vehicle insurance dropped 4.1% or used car prices dipped 1.8%, you're still losing. Those modest savings are instantly eaten up by a massive 26.7% spike in fuel and a 7% jump in repair costs. A lower premium gives you absolutely zero relief if the cost to fill up your tank and fix your brakes just eats the difference. So the crucial point here is that transportation is essentially a cyclical trap. Think about it. You need a car to earn an income, but you need an income to maintain the car. And what happens when the car fails? You turn to debt. Federal Reserve data shows 30% of adults recently faced a major unexpected vehicle repair. For a household living without savings, that missed shift or giant mechanics bill forces them straight into credit card debt simply to keep earning a living. All right, Section 4, postponing the essentials, food and healthcare. After housing and transit take their cuts, families are forced into making agonizing, daily compromises. We hear all the time that inflation is slowing down. Well, actually, let me clarify that. Slowing inflation doesn't mean lower prices. It just means prices are rising at a reduced rate from a level that is already painfully high. Overall food is up 3%, but fruits and veggies jumped 5.3%. This directly contributes to USDA data showing that 13.7% of households experienced food insecurity. Families are leaving the store with food, but they are sacrificing quality, variety, or nutrition just to make the budget work. Healthcare puts families in a very similar vice grip. The average annual premium for employer-sponsored family coverage reached nearly $27,000, and workers are contributing close to $7,000 of that straight out of pocket. But having insurance doesn't eliminate your costs at the doctor's office. Families are paying thousands toward their premiums, yet they still face an average individual deductible of almost $1,900 before a single drop of actual care is covered. That structural cost burden leads to this completely devastating reality. 26% of adults skipped necessary medical care entirely simply because they couldn't afford it. They have access to something essential on paper, sure, but the actual cost to use it completely changes their real-world decisions. This brings us to the climax of the paycheck life cycle. Section 5, the loss of breathing room, the debt trap. The money for the month has run out, but the basic needs haven't. Now, credit was originally designed to let you move future spending into the present. For a lot of households today, it just moves basic survival into the future with interest attached. When survival gets shifted to credit cards, we see balances hovering at a staggering $1.25 trillion. And the pressure is spreading everywhere. Student loan delinquencies have crossed the 10% mark. If your income can't cover the basics, borrowing doesn't actually close the gap. It just pushes the gap forward and slaps you with another monthly payment. Here is the true, invisible danger of 2026. While 63% of adults could cover a $400 emergency using cash or its equivalent, that means a massive 37% absolutely cannot. Their financial breathing room has completely evaporated. The defining cost of American life right now isn't just one expensive luxury bill. It is this total loss of margin. It's the exhausting reality of being just one flat tire, one sick child, or one higher electric bill away from falling hopelessly behind. Ultimately, this crisis isn't always a sudden, dramatic collapse. It is a quiet shrinking of life through delayed decisions and surrendered milestones. The American dream just slowly fades away when people are forced to postpone buying a home, avoid going to the doctor, have fewer children, pause their retirement savings, or stay stuck in an exhausting job, all because there is absolutely zero financial room to take a chance. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. Is the real cost of living simply the sum price of our bills? Or is it the exhausting reality of living entirely without a safety net? The problem is a system of connected expenses all competing for the exact same paycheck. So which cost has changed the most for you? Is it the tangible bills, or is it the lingering fear that one single surprise could set you back for good? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep asking the right questions.